Y'all know how Trump was appealing to the young men, the manosphere red pillar type. I wonder how they're going to be impacted if these tariffs come through, because tariffs are going to impact their video gaming. And I am chuckling at this. And keep in mind, this is resigned laughter because all of us will feel the pain of tariffs. But it's just the people that are like, the economy, the GDP. It's like, sir, it's GDP. The GDP for America. Trump gonna get it down. No, no. Tariffs are going to harm all of us financially. Now that Donald Trump is going to enter the office once again, his proposed tariffs may shape the gaming industry across the United States. In his campaign, the 78-year-old politician spoke of demanding a baseline 60% tariff on exports by China, an action that will indeed lead to quick price hikes for gaming consoles such as PS5, Nintendo Switch, and other electronics that constitute modern gaming, just in time for Christmas. So people on a budget, we're going to be trying to figure out, do I stock up on necessities? Do I get these kids these gaming consoles? Do I have any extra money? I don't know. Like I said, this is resigned laughter. I have two children that are young myself. This is what might happen under Trump's proposed tariffs. The U.S. has a trade deficit with China. To that end, Trump's tariffs encourage domestic manufacturing because electronics production have been so dependent on China. This shift might be quite brutal with hikes in price, Gizmodo reports. Several gaming products, for instance, laptops. Anyone have school-age children? Hey, laptops, next generation consoles like the PS5 Pro and Nintendo Switch 2 will become costlier. Laptops may hike as almost as much as 50%, and the PS5 Pro may jump nearly $1,000 by nearly $1,000, which may make gamers rethink their upgrade decisions. Outlets are now talking about tariffs when they could have been talking about this before the election. This was put out the day after the election, which is no help. We all know that these low information voters like literally believe that tariffs were a tax on China, just like Mexico was building the wall and paying for it. But let's talk about other products that might be impacted by tariffs. All right, so this one is from CNBC, and other outlets are now talking about it now that the election is over. Retail analysts and trade groups are warning President elect Donald Trump's proposed tariff policy could lead to higher prices for consumers. And I'm about to read this. And I use many of these products. Like I said, this is resign laughter. Companies like Five Below, Crocs, Skechers, American Sports, American Eagles Outfitters could be forced to raise prices or take profit cuts because of their exposure to China. And the thing is, these companies are not going to take cuts. They are going to push the price hikes onto us. These companies are not going to take the hits. You are. The CEO of Elf Beauty told CNBC it could raise prices under proposed hikes, which are far higher than the tariffs Trump imposed during his first presidency. See, here I am with my Elf lip gloss. I really enjoy this Elf lip gloss. I have American Eagle pants because they have curvy pants for women. I definitely wear Crocs. I have some Skechers. I haven't been to Five Below this year since I've been in Vegas, but definitely shop there. What products do you think are you going to feel the price hikes on? For retailers and consumers finally feeling some relief from inflation, President-elect Donald Trump's tariffs proposal induces fresh uncertainty around how prices could change during his presidency. Analysts said Wednesday, which is the day after the election, so it's not any help. Trump, who NBC News projects won a second term in a decisive victory, said during his presidential campaign that he would impose a 10 to 20% tariff on all imports, including tariffs as high as 60% to 100% for goods from China. Companies, retail trade groups, and industry analysts have warned the move could fuel higher prices on a wide range of Americans' purchases, such as sneakers and party supplies. The adoption of across-the-board tariffs on consumer goods and other non-strategic imports amounts to a tax on American families. the National Retail Federation CEO Matthew Shea said in a statement on Wednesday, which is the day after the election. It will drive inflation and price increases and will result in job losses. Earlier this week, the NRF released a study on the impact of Trump's proposed tariff increases and said they would lead to a dramatic double-digit percentage price spikes in nearly all 6 retail categories that the trade group examines. Those categories are, and I use these things, apparel, footwear, furniture, household appliances, travel goods, and toys. Aren't you ready, guys? You gotta love it. It just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. The cost of clothing, for example, could rise between 12.5% to 20.6%. The analysis found. The CEO of Elf Beauty, like I said, I got my Elf, which primarily relies on China to manufacture its beauty products, told CNBC in a Wednesday interview it could be forced to raise prices if the proposed tariff hikes take effect. We do have pricing power. If we saw we needed to leverage pricing, we would, said ELF CEO Tarang Amin. It will depend on what we see in terms of the tariffs. It depends on the magnitudes of the tariffs. In a research note Wednesday, Global Data Managing Director Neil Saunders said tariff hikes would create an enormous headache for retailers, which are likely to pass those costs on to the consumers. The result is likely to be a softer spending from already price-conscious shoppers. Despite Trump's assertions to the contrary, tariffs are paid by companies or entities importing goods and not by the countries themselves. This means the cost of buying products from overseas, whether directly or as an input for manufacturing, would rise sharply. Given the trade between Chinese manufacturers and U.S. retailers, a strict tariff policy would mean retailers initially either taking a massive hit on profits or being forced to put up prices, which would fuel inflation and dampen retail volume growth. Over time, supply chains would adjust to this change in tariff policies, but it would be incredibly disruptive in the short term. The small hope is that the tough talk on tariffs is more of a negotiating ploy and that what is finally implemented will be relatively modest in scope. Companies most exposed to tariff hikes. Whether a retailer will suffer from proposed tariff increases will vary based on where their goods come from and whether they have pricing power and popularity to drive higher profit margins or raise prices. In a Bank of America research note, retail analyst Lorraine Hutchinson said, Five Below, Crocs, Skechers, Amer Sports, and American Eagle Outfitters are at a higher risk because 20% or more of their goods are sourced from China. As a result, she downgraded her rating on Five Below stock from neutral to underperform, saying the company doesn't have the pricing power to mitigate hefty tariffs. On the other hand, companies like Bath & Body Works, which sources about 85% of its products from North America, would be less vulnerable, Hutchison said. She said that Trump-backed corporate tax cuts could benefit retailers, but high tariffs would outweigh those tax savings. Deep discounters like Dollar Tree are also exposed because their fixed price point business model makes it difficult to pass on higher prices to customers, said Peter Keith, a senior research analyst at Piper Sandler. The store, which sells discretionary items like toys and party hats, imports many of its items from China and has set prices of $1.25. That means the company needs to either absorb higher cost or shake up its price point model altogether. Bank of America also downgraded Yeti Holdings from buy to neutral because of its high exposure to China. However, unlike Dollar Tree, its fan following and higher profit margin may give it enough cushion to absorb cost increases and raise prices. I'm going to skip a little bit. It says more sticker shock. For consumers, tariffs could contribute to more sticker shock on a wide variety of purchases, from car repairs to toys, just as inflation cools. Some companies, including AutoZone, have already told investors they will raise prices to cover additional costs. If we get tariffs, we will pass those tariff costs back to the consumer. Customers could also pay more for a 6-pack of beer, a bottle of scotch, or even a pack of Oreos, thanks to tariffs. Analysts from equity research firm TD Cowen pointed to a few at-risk companies, including Constellation Brands, which makes its beers Corona Extra and Modelo Especial, liquor companies like Diageo, which imports tequila from Mexico and scotch from Scotland, and Mondelez, which makes some of its cookies and snacks in Mexico. Shoes. I wear shoes. Do you wear shoes? Shoes for adults and kids would cost more too if Trump's proposed tariffs go into effect, said Matt Priest, CEO of Footwear Distributors and Retailers of America, a trade group that counts Nike, Walmart, and others as members. About 99% of all footwear sold in the United States is made overseas, he said, and it would be difficult to move a meaningful chunk of that production back to the States, even if a cost penalty is tacked on. Count us skeptical that there's a pathway for us to figure out how to make 2.5 billion pairs of shoes in the United States every year. The rate of inflation is declining. It would be counterproductive to then turn around and go back to pulling one of those inflationary levers, which would be additional tariffs at a time when consumers telling all of us, both politically on last night's results, as well as from a consumer perspective, we don't want higher prices. They might say that they don't want higher prices, but the fact that so many low information voters voted for this tells us that we're all going to suffer because of them. All right, let me know what you think about this. One of my homies sent me this article from the Pew Research Center, and it made me perk up. Listen to this. Among unmarried adults, women without children have as much wealth as single men. I'll repeat that. It is the women without children have as much wealth as single men. This is going to work exactly in our favor as we talk about allowing the birth rate to tumble to hell. In the United States, households headed by married adults have much more wealth on average than those headed by single adults. And among unmarried adults, there's a significant wealth gap between men and women. In 2022, the typical single man had $82,000 in wealth compared with $58,000 for the typical single woman, according to the US Census Bureau. But this graph is the key, and this graph is very pertinent right now because we've been talking about the child-free movement, we've been talking about the 4B movement and all of that. So if you look down here, among unmarried women, we've been talking about this before. The motherhood penalty is where the divergence in wealth comes in because kids are expensive. They really are. Kids are expensive, and this economy is not letting up. So women without children, that's where the wage gap comes into play because single women without children make just as much money right now in the current economy as single men without children. So if you look where I have highlighted yellow, among unmarried women without children, this is wealth. Unmarried women without children have over $87,000, whereas single women with children have just under $11,000 in wealth. And you can see the rest of the households here. But what is pertinent to us right now is that we know and understand, especially if you currently do not have children, that right now in this economy where we're really trying to focus on having financial freedom, financial health, and wealth, that women without children, if you are planning on having kids, have the kids that you want to have. I don't need people swooping in. Oh my God, you have kids and you're no. I'm just talking about the current political climate, the current climate that is about to happen come January. Women need to know and understand what our options are and what it could look like. Continuing with the article, it says, but among unmarried women, wealth varies considerably between those who have children under 18 in the household and those who don't. Households headed by unmarried women who do not have children under 18 had a median wealth of over $87,000 in 2022, similar to households headed by unmarried men. In contrast, the median wealth of households headed by unmarried women with children was just under $11,000. A household's total wealth is the value of its assets minus its outstanding debts. Across key assets, unmarried women without children are about on par with unmarried men. Single women with children are behind in each area. Home ownership. In 2022, this is good, y'all. This is good. In 2022, 50% of single women without children under the age of 18 owned a home. Good for y'all. High five. This is similar to the 47% of unmarried men who own their home. Only 34% of single mothers own a home. Home equity. The typical single woman homeowner without children had $165,000 in home equity, which is the value of the home minus the outstanding mortgage balance. This is slightly more than the $150,000 median home equity of single men homeowners. Single mothers who own their own home had $114,000 in median home equity. So I just wanted to share a few of those numbers from the Pew Research. I thought that it was definitely interesting and something to note. Take and do with these numbers what you will. Join the conversation. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.